You remember back in the late 2000s when there was a bad Gears of War ripoff coming out every other week? Oh, those were the days. But amongst all that mediocrity, there was Vanquish, a third-person shooter made by Platinum Games, which can only mean one thing. It's friggin' awesome. In Vanquish, you play as Gun Shoot Man, and you have to shoot all the robots. I mean, not really, there is a story, but come on, who frickin' cares? I'm here to shoot things. So let's try to keep the explanation brief. You ever played Gears of War before? Great, you know how to play Vanquish. The only thing we have to talk about now is the stuff that makes Vanquish unique. Which, number one, of course, is the slide. If you've ever seen footage of someone playing Vanquish who doesn't really know how to play Vanquish, a lot of the times they kind of just play it like Gears of War, like a typical cover-based shooter. They just stay behind cover, pop over it every now and then, and shoot at guys, and then go back into cover. And you can totally play Vanquish like that, and it works. But why on earth would you do that? You see that meter at the bottom right corner underneath your guns? That's your boost meter, and as long as you have boost meter, you can slide around like a motherfucker, dashing across the battlefield at incredible speed. What's particularly great about sliding in Vanquish is that not only can you influence the direction you're sliding, moving to the side as you go forward, but you can also slide in any direction you want, and also, more importantly, you can steer the direction of your slide with the camera. So if you're sliding forward, you can tilt left and right, but you're going forward no matter what. But if you just turn the camera, then forward changes, and that basically lets you fly around the battlefield all over the place, all the time, at super high speed, while you're still able to shoot guys. Of course, sliding around will drain your meter, which is why meter management is very, very important. You gotta keep an eye on that meter, make sure you don't spend the whole thing, because if you ever end up running out of meter, then it'll overheat and you won't be able to dash around at all until the meter fully heals, which is really lame because then you can't fly all over the place. In addition to sliding around, you can use your meter to slow down the game, giving you time to react to things, aim for targets that are hard to hit, aim while moving really fast, and also it's just really awesome. There are several different ways to trigger slow-mo. If you just aim while sliding, that'll go into slow motion. If you aim after a dodge roll, that'll trigger slow motion. If you hop over cover and then aim immediately, that will trigger slow motion. And additionally, some melee attacks will allow you to trigger slow motion, such as the sliding melee attack, or the melee attack like this one, this flip kick here, like you get on weapons like the heavy machine gun. With this, you can do the melee without actually having to hit anything, just to trigger an airborne slow-mo to let you see over things and get the high ground above enemies. Which I definitely prefer, because for whatever reason, they chose to have melee in this game drain your entire meter if you hit an enemy with it. Like, yeah, it's powerful, it'll insta-kill most smaller enemies and do a lot of damage to big enemies, but it is not really worth it, in my opinion, to melee, because it drains your entire meter. I mean, I guess if you're already low on meter and you want to spend the whole thing, you can do a melee, and you can trigger slowdown even after a melee hits, despite the fact that it would normally spend all of your meter. So there are options for it, but generally I don't ever want my meter to get fully expended, so I don't really like to melee very often. And additionally, if you find that grenades take way too long to explode on their own, you can always just trigger slow-mo and then shoot one of your grenades out of the air, causing it to blow up whenever you want. That's so freaking cool! Another thing I should mention is that if you're ever put at critically low health, slow-mo will just automatically trigger and spend your entire meter without your say-so, which for one is another reason you want to make sure you never run out of meter, because it gives you an opportunity to save your life. But two, it means you gotta be careful. As cool as it is to slide around and get all crazy, you can't get careless. The enemies are still a threat, especially if you play on the harder difficulties. They will still do significant damage to you if you just act careless and just run in front of them without taking any cover yourself. It's an intricate balance in Vanquish between flying all around the place like a crazy person and using cover to get some health back and get your bearings on the situation, rebuild your meter if it's low, things like that. At the end of the day, this is still a cover-based shooter, just with options for a lot of mobility and a lot of really cool stuff, but it's all gotta be in balance. You can't play this game completely ignoring cover, thinking that you can dodge everything, because you can't. But at the same time, you don't want to play it fully in cover, because, I mean, really, do I even have to explain? Look at how cool this shit is. It's all about playing smart. Killing enemies is not what I'm here for. Killing enemies in an awesome, cool, super action-y, stylish way, that's what I'm actually trying to do. And you just need to make sure that you're playing in such a way that you are enabling yourself to do that as much as possible. So if you overcommit to that kind of thing at the expense of your own life, then you're going to go critical, you're going to overheat, you're not going to be able to boost around for a while. That's not cool. But also sitting and cowering, that's not cool either. Vanquish is a game you play on the razor's edge. You want to be using the meter to the utmost maximum that you possibly can, taking full advantage of it in every opportunity, but you never want to go over. It's kind of almost like playing blackjack in a way. You want to be as close as possible to messing up, but never actually hitting that point. Of course, eventually you are going to push too hard, and you're either going to die or you're going to run out of meter, and then you're just going to have to sit behind cover for a little bit to let it recharge, which is lame. But unlike blackjack, it's all in your hands. It's all about how you choose to play, your approach to the battle, your assessment of the situation, and trying to decide what is the coolest and best way that you can do this, while also still managing your health and meter correctly. There really is a lot here if you go past the initial idea of your goal simply being to kill all of the enemies. And that's pretty much how it is for like every Platinum game and lots of the best action games, at least in my opinion. A lot of games out there you can play and enjoy playing them in the most straightforward way possible, you know. What is my objective? And you just do what you need to do in order to complete that objective. And you can usually do it very efficiently, very safely, very smartly. But games like this, that go beyond that, that ask you if you want to do more, that give you the tools, that give you a playground to let you create your own fun around that simple system, those are the types of games that really resonate with me, and that is why I think Vanquish is honestly one of the most fun shooters that, has ever been made. Do I need to be jumping out of this cover, exposing myself to all these enemies who can shoot me, then sliding around to get around behind them and start shooting them all in the back while I'm doing slow-mo dodges and stuff? No, absolutely not. This is completely unnecessary and really risky. If I just wanted to kill the enemies, this is not at all the smart thing to do. But I'm not doing this because it's my objective, and I'm not doing it for score either. I'm doing it because it's awesome. That's something that I feel is lost to a lot of gamers. I don't really typically see people talking about this kind of thing, but the inherent fun that you can get out of the gameplay, out of systems and games that are very complicated and nuanced and have a lot of complexity and depth to them, you don't need objectives, you don't need exterior motivations, you don't need positive reinforcement. Oh, if you do this challenge, you can unlock this costume and all that. You don't need any of that. All you need is sick-ass awesome gameplay and to do cool stuff, and that can be incredibly satisfying and super fun. The issue is that most players don't really think this way, and so they don't engage with these games in this kind of way, which usually results in these types of high-depth action games kind of being missed by the general public. I mean, if you're a Platinum fan, you know that almost every single fucking game they put out is a flop, because for whatever reason, people just do not want to engage with all of these superfluous systems that don't really need to be there. They're there simply for the player to experiment with and express themselves and have fun. And because of that, games like this don't do very well, and so less of them get made. I mean, these types of action games are actually pretty niche. And honestly, that just breaks my heart. You know, there's a lot of games out there that the game is very cool. There's lots of games with cool art styles and cool characters that do cool moves with cool animations, and there's awesome music, and there's just so many cool things happening in the game. But there's not really that many games out there that let you be cool, that the gameplay itself is cool. It's normally the more superfluous stuff, like, you know, the super animations will be really big and flashy and fancy cool things. But the actual gameplay itself is usually relatively pedestrian and doesn't really offer that much for the player. But games like this, games like Vanquish, games like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, these games let you, the player, be awesome. The game itself, it is cool, but the game doesn't just give you that coolness for free. It just gives you a bunch of tools, a bunch of options, a bunch of things you can do, and it lets you take them and it lets you be cool. I don't know about you, but I don't know many games where picking up ammo for my empty rocket launcher and firing it can look like this. And that's not the game doing that. That's not the game making me slide and picking up ammo on the way and firing missiles while I'm dodging shots from the enemy. I did that. And that is why people love these kinds of games. That is why Vanquish is so awesome. I mean, just think about it. My mechanic explanation for this video was pretty damn short. There's not really that much to even consider in this game. Yet, look at all the gameplay that I've shown you. Look at all the cool stuff you can do. Look at all the options for you as the player approaching these different combat encounters and figuring out what is the coolest way that you can possibly get through them. At first glance, Vanquish might just seem like another generic Gears of War ripoff, third-person cover-based shooter. Whatever, who cares? But no, it's actually so much more than that. As far as single-player shooters go, Vanquish is probably one of the best ever made.